Now, I want to spend a few minutes on, well, if having said all that, but then what about safety, what about the fears that we have on nuclear, and so on and so forth. First is radiation, the fear of radiation. Now, during normal operation of the reactors, the radiation from the reactors is actually negligible. This is the natural background, which everywhere you have radiation. The limits of the regulator are here, and compared to both these, the actual experience with all our reactors, you will find it is actually 1,000 times lower than the natural background. So there is no question of any harm because of radiation during normal operation of the reactor. Risk is also measured in terms of fatality. You can compare different energy technologies by way of the casualties per unit of electricity produced. And I have deliberately downloaded this data from internet. It's available for anybody to do. And you may find it hard to believe, but in terms of comparison of casualties per death rate per terawatt hour per unit of electricity produced, nuclear lies at the bottom of the table. So obviously it's the safest energy technology that, in fact, it's better than solar, it's better than wind. You may find it hard to digest, but I think all of you are internet savvy, so you can search it out for yourself. So then what is the problem? The problem is there is something like catastrophe syndrome which is sitting on the minds of public. There was this Hiroshima Nagasaki bomb which destroyed big cities, killed huge amount of humankind. And so anything nuclear means those images sit on our head. There is, as a part of the response of the technologists and scientists, they said, okay, we'll make this technology so safe that this issue should not arise. And so a principle called linear no threshold was promulgated, which says that, and in nuclear it's possible, as I told you, in operating condition, you can bring radiation low very low. So we can do that. So I said, let's work with the thing that will work on this as low as reasonably achievable. And drive it by the fact that, well, let's assume that even if you cut down the dose by 10%, let's assume that there will be 10% risk. It will never be zero, which is a good principle as far as, designing and normal operations of the facilities are concerned, because you drive ourselves to this, to the safest performance. But that's the very fact that creates problem when there is an accident, because then the emergency countermeasures you overdo. You say you must drive the dose, so you must move large number of people, because we don't want anybody to be exposed to risk. And this is at the core of the problem. I'll come to that in a moment, but before that, let me say that the Chernobyl data, in terms of the people who were exposed to acute levels of radiation, if you say what was the death rate among these 140 odd people who were overexposed, and it's plotted here in terms of the dose received by those people and the death rate. at a dose somewhat higher than this, at this road, 20 out of 21 people who got exposed died. At this level, 1 out of 21 people who got exposed died. At this level, 1 out of 55 people died. And at this level, none out of 140 died. Clearly, there is a threshold. So the assumption of linear no threshold is actually questionable. Actually, now we can get a lot of juicy stories, and it's a question of ethics and all. So I will encourage all of you to read internet and go to the bottom of that story. I don't want to do that. But the fact is that there is a threshold, and because we tend to move large people in terms of protecting them in their emergencies, you have this public scare which is at the core of this problem. The reality is, in Colorado, USA, has a population of around 5 million people. According to the L&T model, Colorado should have had an excess of 200 cancer deaths per year, but has a rate less than national average. Very healthy people actually. At Ramsar, Iran, the residents receive an yearly dose between 100 and 260 millisieverts. This is actually several times higher than the radiation level at Chernobyl and Fukushima exclusion zone. Mind you, those episodes were for a short time. Here people are living for generations. People living in Ramsar have no adverse health effects but live longer and healthier lives. This is the reality. We also know that China, Norway, Sweden, Brazil and India, we have Kerala monazite areas, where radiation level is many times larger than the 2.4 millisievert per year world average. And in fact, studies have been done in all areas. In India, we have studies in the monazite areas, and no effect has been noticed. No additional cancer has been noticed. So that's the reality. Now, in contrast, how have we responded, or how have we seen the Chernobyl, or for that matter Fukushima accident? The projected health consequences from low doses to large section of population, I told you that it's based on a faulty premise, but if you calculate that, and of course Greenpeace are very enthusiastic about these calculations, so they have reports. The estimate consequence, for example, in 2006, a projection was made that 93,000 people will die due to cancer up to the year 2056. There was another estimate in 2009. We said that more than 9 lakh people have already died till 2004. So this, you can just see the fallacy which can be propagated to large extent. Now the actual consequence as measured by international teams, the total deaths following Chernobyl was 62. Out of that, 47 were plant workers, and I gave you the distribution in the previous correlation there. 15 were due to the thyroid cancer. So out of 134 acute radiation syndrome, 28 have died, and there is of course an increased cancer incident. The thyroid cancer, which is actually curable, or for that matter it could be in fact avoided if the iodine prophylaxis had been administered in good time. But there is a small cancer incident and 15 people have died. Mind you, this is still lower than, much smaller than the average cancer burden that we have in our societies. So I think we need to be realistic about the risk, and of course look at those in the context of the benefits that the society can derive. Well, I have already said this. Fukushima, it has become apparent that the evacuation from the exclusion zone of Fukushima has been excessive, and this has been said by international bodies. Some of the areas that have been evacuated probably suffered so little contamination that they could be reoccupied. And in fact, reoccupation has started there. As per World Health Organization report, most of the people in Fukushima prefecture would have received a radiation dose between 1 to 10 millisieverts during the first year. Two places the dose were between 10 and 50 millisievert, still below the harmful level. Almost all other places were below the internationally agreed reference level for public exposure due to radon in dwelling, that is about 10 millisieverts. The Health Physics Society's position, this is American Health Physics Societies, they adopted a statement in 1996 and it was revised later in 2010, and it states, in accordance with the current knowledge of radiation risk, the Health Physics Society recommend against the quantitative estimation of health risk below an individual dose of 5 rem or 50 millisieverts in 1 year, or a lifetime dose of 10 rem or 100 millisieverts above that received from natural source. And that's something which should not have been done. People do, and then the scare starts. The French Academy of Science and National Academy of Medicine published a report in 2005 that in fact rejected the linear no threshold model in favor of a threshold dose response and a significantly reduced risk at low radiation exposures. So that much about the radiation hazard story. The next is, of course, what about the waste? Waste, do we not have to worry about waste for thousands or tens of thousands of years? And that's true in the sense, if we talk about once through mode of management of waste, as many countries do, including United States, then obviously you still live with a much larger dose even after millions of years. But that's not the practice or the philosophy or the policy that we adopt in the country. We have been always following the closed fuel cycle. And if you follow the closed fuel cycle, then the same fuel which was giving this dose would now, because you are recycling, would give this dose, which is actually a factor of 100 lower. So waste problem in India, first of all, Indian program is at least 25-30 times smaller than the US. US is generating more than 100,000 megawatts for last 20-30 years. We are still at around 5,000. So that itself is factor of 20. But assuming that we will go all the way there or even beyond, but because we recycle, the problem is 100 times smaller. And of course, we are going to shift to thorium. And if you shift to thorium fuel cycle, the closed loop uranium-233 thorium thermal cycle, you further reduce it by 100 times. So we are talking about a waste problem which is 10,000 times smaller than what people in the world are talking about. And we have the technologies to do it. We are practicing that technology of waste management on an industrial scale today. And tomorrow there is research going on, and with the development of partitioning and transmutation technologies, and I'm sure another 15-20 years will be there, we can in fact reduce the radiotoxicity of waste to well below a uranium mine in a period of 300 years. So I don't think the radiation waste problem lasts beyond 300 years, and you can dispose it of right at the place, because it's within the institutional lifespan now. So I think too much is being made because the world does not recycle, and they don't recycle because they have this phobia, fear, that Iran will make a nuclear bomb and drop on us. Or maybe earlier they had the fear that India would make a nuclear bomb and drop on us. We can't hold the world energy supply to hostage on such. We must address that security problem, but there are many other ways of doing it, and not bring the economic well-being of larger part of the population under question. I come to the end of my. I talked about nuclear, I talked about solar, because as I told you, that should be the mainstay of our long-term energy supply. I think there are many areas where again the two technologies can be seen to be worked together. We can produce electricity using nuclear, you can produce electricity using solar. You can produce hydrogen using nuclear, high temperature nuclear reactors. You can produce hydrogen using solar by solar thermal technology route. So far so good. But what about hydrogen? We don't have plenty of hydrogen cars, and what about we running out of hydrocarbon? The prices are going up day by day. We are dependent on import of hydrocarbons. But I think it's eminently possible to use biomass, for example, to use biomass and hydrogen. Hydrogen coming from here, biomass and including CO2 coming from here, put together, you can actually produce an hydrocarbon substitute. I know abroad Nobel laureates are working on this. I was reading a United Kingdom technical foresight. There are paragraphs written about CO2 recycled to produce hydrocarbons. You can in fact, given sufficient research input, you can in fact take the CO2 produced by various processes or atmospheric CO2 and combine that with hydrogen produced through nuclear or solar energy and produce liquid hydrocarbons for running your transportation system. In France, there is a demonstration work going on for producing biomass and combining that with hydrogen produced from 8 nuclear reactors which they have. And together they can produce enough fuel for the entire French automobile fleet. Now these things are all on the anvil. I don't find any serious work going on in India on any one of these issues. And according to me, this is the most important dimension for long-term energy security, and it's going to take time for us. So I think we must drive our research and development strategies to achieve this. And these are not big challenges. A country where, in fact, our Mumbai area is supposed to be the chemical hub, or the Western India is supposed to be the chemical hub. It's only a matter of searching a good catalyst, because anyway carbon monoxide and hydrogen, we run several chemical processes. So it's a little step forward, which I think we should work on quite seriously. And if you do that, then between nuclear and solar, you can produce electricity, you can produce hydrogen, you can produce hydrocarbons like diesel or a dimethyl ether, which is an equivalent. You can run your transportation system, you can run your household supply, you can have pipes of hydrogen, you can have wires carrying electricity, and you can run your industry in different fields also, and you can produce them in quantities that we require, as I said earlier. The question is, you decide on working on this today, it's going to take time. It will take maybe 10 years before you will get to a position where you can run a reasonable size industry. Question is, who will invest? Our industry says, no, too risky a business. Our government says, no, but I won't get this result till the next election. So I think you have the maximum stakes, because government may come and go, industry may come and go, you will be there. And I think it is ultimately the ingenuity of human mind that can address this issue. And as I again said, please look at this much beyond just science and technology problem. The constraints are not just science and technology, constraints are totality, including, you must understand why we think the way we think, why the society thinks the way it thinks. Unfortunately, we have got into a situation where if I say this should be done, there will be 10 other people will say this should not be done. And I have no difficulty with that debate. But somebody should do something and move forward. You can't be in a situation where nothing moves forward. So my last message to all of you is, we gain knowledge, we learn about several things, but we end up being an activist. And it's very easy to be an activist. There is a syndrome called but. If somebody tells you something, but there is this problem, that problem, that problem. And it's always very easy to say why something cannot be done. I think the real challenge lies in saying that this can be done. And so, for heaven's sake, rather than being activist, I'm not saying that you should not be activist. I'm not saying that you should not have debate. But each one of you should at least solve some problem. You solve one problem, you can debate 10 problems. But if you have not solved even one problem, I think you have no right to debate any problem. So to my young colleagues, I think if you decide that in your life or the next 10 years, you will certainly ensure that your efforts contribute to meaningful addressing of solving one problem. And then you can debate everything else to your heart's content. Thank you very much.
Now the session is open for questions.
Yes, shoot, I am ready.
Yes, any questions?
Are there mics there?
Yeah, there are mics. Yes. So my name is Hitesh and I am from chemistry department. And so first of all, I would like to thank you heartiest and from my whole chemistry department. And so the question is coming in my mind. For achieving this target, which you have told, this 5,000 kilowatt means per capita. Actually, sir, we have to establish this nuclear reactor not only the metro cities, but we have to reach in our rural areas also. But sir, what we are seeing in the present time, that when we go to start any reactor in rural areas, the people start to oppose that. Means, for example, you can take example of this Jaitapur power plant. Means, what is your opinion or idea then how we can solve this problem to achieve this target of 5,000?
I must. I think you are absolutely right, and it's not a problem of urban and rural area. If government decides to set up a nuclear reactor in Mumbai, I think there will be also a similar problem. So it is not as if rural people are objecting to or urban people won't object. It is a psychology which is, you must have heard the term NIMBY, not in my backyard. So I want electricity, but you don't put that plant. And this happens even today your local body says that I want to create a garbage dump. They have to have garbage dump somewhere. I don't like that technology, but that's one of the solutions. Now, if everybody says that I don't want it here, and that urban people say and also village people say, now India is a country with perhaps a very large or largest population density. You can't find a 10-kilometer patch where there are no people, except some say, deserts and things like that. So now, if you say that you cannot have such a thing, then obviously you have no solution. You can't blame people. The issue is people would have genuine apprehensions. I deliberately gave the example of garbage dump. It's nobody's case that garbage dump does not create any harm. But I think it should be society's case that waste management can be done properly. It will require some place, some facility, but it can be done in a manner that it creates no harm. People have to be convinced about it. And I'm quite sure that it's a question of a very proactive public awareness program. Now, talking about Jaitapur, I know people like you, they have been going to Jaitapur. Forget about these rallies and meetings and all. They have been actually interacting with people. And I'll just tell you an episode. One of them, they've been going by twos and fours, and they all have their relatives who living in those families, and then talking to maybe 8-10 families around. One of the students told me that he was talking with a very elderly person. He explained, and he had a lot of apprehensions. So when he explained, he says, "Yeah, this is all very fine." Then he said, "But मराठीमध्ये जर इथे जैतापूरमध्ये नाही झाला तर दुसरीकडे कुठेतरी हा प्लांट होईलच." So this young man said, "Yes, it will happen. Somewhere else it will happen." But then मग सगळ्या लोकांना नोकऱ्या मिळणार, मला नोकरी नाही मिळणार. And he says, no, then I have no. So now this is individual response, but this is not to mean that if 100 people like that come together, they will say the same thing. Today the situation is, if one political party says yes, the other political party will say no. And then the mob psychology behaves differently. And that's where I said that please be an expert and solve a problem and not be activist. And that's exactly why I said that. I think people will have apprehensions, and I think we must engage with people, talk to people, explain to them. But we cannot allow people to fall prey to false propaganda. And and this is not just an Indian phenomenon, this is happening world over. So I think the campaign has to go on. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Myself, Suyog Marathe from Department of Chemistry. We have many audits in our country. We have financial audits. We have audit on cricket also. Unfortunately, our country is not looking forward for the energy audit. I think University of Mumbai must haven't done their energy audit. It's becoming very famous that news comes in paper or maybe on Aaj Tak that Mantralaya or Parliament is wasting so many electricity, so many lights are there. Today we are lucky to witness your lecture. There might be so many colleges amongst the University of Mumbai only, especially in Ratnagiri district or maybe Alibag district. They might have suffered for not viewing your lecture only because they don't have the electricity. When our country will realize the value of the energy audit and not having the value of having the energy, but value of saving the energy, because Vizechi Bachat is the Vizechi Nirmiti. So when this paradigm shift will come in our, because energy not only in terms of electricity, but equally there is the importance of water, fuel and the food especially, because our country is the agricultural country. When this paradigm shift will come, where we all will understand the value of saving the natural resources